Subscribe to English Hub to achieve fluent English.
Why do so many students understand English but struggle to speak it? It's a common issue among English learners. They can understand the language well, follow conversations, movies, or podcasts, but when it's time to speak, they hesitate, struggle to find the right words, or avoid speaking altogether. This problem affects a vast number of learners, including many of the students I work with in my English Learning Club. Understanding why this happens and how to fix it can transform your English speaking skills. To help explain why this issue occurs, I want to offer an analogy that might help clarify the situation. Imagine you go to the gym 4 times a week, but every time you go, you only train your arms. You never train your legs. Your focus is entirely on building upper body strength. What happens after a few months? You will likely have very strong arms, but your legs will remain weak because they haven't been exercised. The same principle applies to language learning. Many learners focus heavily on understanding English through listening and reading, but they neglect speaking practice. The result? They develop excellent listening skills, but their speaking abilities lag behind, much like how your legs would remain weak if you didn't train them at the gym. The root of the problem. Understanding this problem begins with recognizing the nature of language learning. English, or any language, is a skill that involves multiple components: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. While many students invest time in improving their listening skills by watching videos, listening to podcasts, or engaging with other forms of spoken English, they often shy away from speaking. They may read books, study grammar, and even listen to English for hours a day. But without actively practicing their speaking skills, they never strengthen that particular muscle. It's crucial to understand that speaking is not just a passive process. It involves engaging your brain in real time to produce words, formulate ideas, and construct sentences. When you merely listen without practicing speaking, you are only training part of your brain. You become skilled at receiving information, but you don't develop the ability to produce that information in conversation. This is why so many learners can understand English well, but struggle when it comes to speaking. The solution: speak more. The solution to this problem is simple but challenging. You need to speak more. Just like you would train both your arms and legs to achieve overall strength at the gym, you need to actively practice speaking to develop fluency. Speaking English is like building a muscle. The more you do it, the stronger that muscle becomes. This is why it's essential to speak regularly if you want to improve your fluency and confidence. Of course, I understand that many students find speaking in English intimidating. They may worry about making mistakes, mispronouncing words, or being judged by others. These concerns are natural, but they are also obstacles that can prevent you from progressing. To overcome them, you need to push yourself out of your comfort zone and practice speaking even when it feels difficult or uncomfortable. The importance of practice and patience. Think back to the gym analogy. When you first start working out, you may feel weak or self-conscious, especially if you're new to the exercises. You might not know exactly what you're doing, and you may even worry about what others think of you. But over time, as you continue to go to the gym and build your strength, you start to feel more confident. You notice that you're able to lift heavier weights, and you become more comfortable with the routine. The same thing happens when you start speaking English. At first, you may feel awkward or unsure of yourself, especially if you're a beginner or at an intermediate level, like A1 or A2. You might struggle to find the right words or make mistakes in your sentences, but this is completely normal. As with any skill, practice is key. The more you speak, the more comfortable and confident you will become. Even if you struggle at first, your ability to speak will improve over time. Every conversation you have in English is like a workout for your language skills. The more you practice, the stronger your speaking skills will become. Eventually, you'll find yourself speaking with greater fluency and ease. Overcoming the fear of judgment. One of the biggest barriers to speaking is the fear of being judged by native speakers, or even other learners. Many students worry that if they make mistakes or stumble over their words, others will think less of them. I understand this fear very well because I experienced it myself when I was learning other languages, such as German and Italian. I was terrified of speaking, especially with native speakers, because I thought they were judging me for every mistake I made. As a perfectionist, I believed I had to speak perfectly in order to be taken seriously. But here's the truth. Most native speakers are not judging you when you speak English. In fact, most people appreciate the effort you're making to learn their language. Think about it from your own perspective. If someone were learning your native language and trying their best to speak it, would you judge them? Most likely you'd be impressed and want to encourage them. You'd recognize the effort they're putting in, and you'd probably want to help them improve. Native English speakers are no different. They appreciate it when non-native speakers make the effort to communicate in English. Of course, there will always be a small minority of people who might judge you or be critical of your mistakes, but these individuals are the exception, not the rule. You shouldn't let these negative people hold you back. In life, we all encounter judgmental people from time to time, but it's important to remember that their opinions don't define you. The vast majority of people, especially English speakers, are supportive and encouraging when they see someone trying to learn their language. Letting go of perfectionism. If you're a perfectionist like me, you may feel the need to speak perfectly every time you open your mouth. You might worry about every little mistake, whether it's a grammatical error, a mispronunciation, or a word you forgot. But the truth is, perfectionism can be a major obstacle to language learning. It can prevent you from speaking at all, which is the very thing you need to do to improve. You need to let go of the idea that you must be perfect to speak English. The goal of speaking a language is not perfection, it's communication. If you can express your ideas and communicate effectively, then you're doing just fine. Mistakes are a natural part of the learning process, and they actually help you improve. Every time you make a mistake, you learn something new. If you wait until you're perfect to start speaking, you'll never speak at all. Think about it. Even native English speakers make mistakes. For example, many native speakers use double negatives, like, I don't know nothing, which is grammatically incorrect. They should say, I don't know anything. But native speakers still make these kinds of errors all the time. Just because someone is a native speaker doesn't mean they speak perfectly. So don't hold yourself to an unrealistic standard of perfection. Focus on communicating your ideas, and remember that mistakes are part of the process. Prioritize communication over grammar. When you're in a conversation with someone, whether it's a friend or a native speaker, your main focus should be on communication, not on perfect grammar. Of course, grammar is important, but it shouldn't be your priority when you're speaking. In the middle of a conversation, you don't have time to think about all the grammatical rules and conjugations. If you try to do that, you'll likely freeze up and feel overwhelmed. Instead, focus on getting your message across. You can always worry about grammar later, but in the moment during a conversation, your goal should be to speak and express yourself. The more you practice, the more your grammar will improve naturally over time. But if you let grammar hold you back from speaking, you'll never get the practice you need to improve. Embrace the process. Learning a language is a slow and steady process. It takes time, effort, and patience. You won't become fluent overnight, and that's okay. What's important is that you stay committed to the process and keep pushing yourself to improve. Even when you feel discouraged or unmotivated, it's important to keep speaking and practicing. Language learning is a natural process for humans. We are designed to learn languages. So trust that you have the ability to improve if you stay dedicated. It's normal to feel frustrated at times or to feel like you're not making progress. But if you stick with it, you will see results. I remember feeling this way when I was learning German and Italian. There were moments when I felt like giving up, but I kept pushing myself to speak and practice, even when it was hard. Over time, I started to notice improvements, and eventually, I became more fluent. The same thing will happen to you if you stay patient and keep practicing.